I'm Robin Gagnon.
And I'm Eric Gagnon, and we sell restaurants. We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm, We Sell Restaurants, over a decade ago. You can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com.
Not just online, we're also on your radio once a week with the leading authorities in this industry, talking about subjects trending in the restaurant business. Tweet your own questions on our topics while we're on the air to our Twitter handle. It's Sell Restaurants, or post them on our Facebook page, facebook.com/We Sell Restaurants. If we don't get to your question, we'll definitely follow up on social media.
Our goal is to satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. If you have any ideas for our show or you have any comments, you can email me at eric@WeSellRestaurants.com.
Today, we're focusing on breakfast concepts, one of the hottest day parts in the restaurant industry. We're talking to operators that are breaking eggs and cooking up both omelets and profits. That's right. We've got industry leaders with a pulse on the hottest breakfast menu trends. So let's get started and talk about why the early bird is getting the payoff in the restaurant industry.
How exciting is this, guys? No pun intended. For today, our first guest is Daryl Dollinger. Since 2007, he has been the president and co-founder of Big Game Brands, formerly known as Raving Brands, which includes the Flying Biscuit Cafe, where nearly 5,000 biscuits are being baked per week per location. As the head of the company, he oversees functions including franchise marketing, sourcing and qualification, sales, recruiting, franchise relations, franchise training, operations, real estate, legal, finance, and general administration. Dollinger is the key player on the management team since the company's inception 5 years ago. He works with a diverse team of 8 individuals who assist in the management of the enterprise. Prior to his time with the company, Dollinger was involved in all facets of restaurant management with companies such as Aramark and Einstein Bagels. He is a member of the International Franchise Association and the International Council of Shopping Center. Daryl, we're thrilled to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our second guest is from FirstWatch. FirstWatch, the daytime cafe, is led by Chris Tomasso. Mr. Tomasso is a seasoned marketing and branding professional with more than 20 years' experience guiding some of the most well-known brands in the restaurant and entertainment industry. FirstWatch currently operates more than 100 restaurants in 15 states and has experienced positive same-store sales growth for 30 consecutive years and counting. FirstWatch is now the largest and fastest-growing daytime-only restaurant concept in the United States, with aggressive plans to keep the momentum for fast and sustainable growth going strong. FirstWatch begins each morning at the crack of dawn, slicing fresh fruits and vegetables, baking muffins, and whipping up their French toast batter from scratch. Everything is made to order, and freshness is never compromised. First Touch CEO Chris Tomasso, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Guys, Sterling Rice Group, SRG, actually issued its annual Cutting Edge Dining Trends for 2014, calling it the Year of the Yolk. Restaurant.com says the number one trend in 2014 in American eateries is egg and not just for the morning. How did each of you predict this big trend and get in front of it with your breakfast concept? At one time, let's ask each of you to tell listeners what drove you to create a breakfast-focused concept before it was necessarily, a cool trend.
Chris, you want to start us off?
Sure. I wish I could say it had to do with research and trends and things like that, but FirstWatch started over 30 years ago in Pacific Grove, California. And to be honest with you, our co-founders, they wanted to be able to golf in the afternoon. So they were seasoned restaurant executives. They'd been with some very successful brands in the 70s, and then in the early 80s they decided to get together and put this concept together, and it really was so that they could golf in the afternoon. So the hours of 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Allowed them to have manage just one shift a day, focus on breakfast, brunch, and lunch, and hit the links in the afternoon.
That is a great story. I love that. So, Daryl, same question for you. Did you look into your crystal glass into the future and say, oh, breakfast is where it's at, and that's how you landed here? What drove the concept for Flying Biscuit?
Well, very similar to Chris. I mean, Flying Biscuit's been around for 20 years, based out of Atlanta, and what the founder, thought of was breakfast all day. Who doesn't love breakfast, whether it be 7 a.m., or at midnight after a long night out or whatever it may be. So I think that's what really stuck to us. We didn't start the concept. We acquired it back in 2004, about 10 years ago. And what we really liked about it is that their philosophy was breakfast all day. So we're serving breakfast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And many of our restaurants are open till 9 o'clock at night serving dinner entrees. So what we find is that most of them are selling 80% of their sales are breakfast items all through the night, which from a food cost perspective is fantastic for our operators.
That's actually something we want to come back to and talk a little bit about food costs, because I think that's a great point. Eric brought up that, it's supposedly the year of the yolk and it's the number one trend. Is all this attention for breakfast concepts good for your brand? Chris, maybe you can weigh in since you're already positioned for growth, or does this kind of just draw attention and drive new competitors into your niche?
It's both, actually. We believe that, with over 100 restaurants in now 16 states, we've got a significant presence in the breakfast space, and certainly with the focus by mostly QSR in the last, call it 2 to 4 years, but really ramped up in the last 12 to 18 months, is we believe just raising the consumer's overall awareness for breakfast, and we believe that we'll get our fair share of that renewed interest. The breakfast category in general, you've got big players like Starbucks and Taco Bell and Subway and others getting into it, and obviously McDonald's has figured it out for a long time, and everybody's on the QSR side has been trying to chase them. But the amount of marketing and advertising dollars that these concepts are putting toward educating the consumer about breakfast and the importance of that meal and that type of thing is something we could never do on our budget. And we're thankful for them raising the awareness. And again, we think it's kind of one of those rising tides raise all boats, and we're getting our fair share. And we're having a great year this year too, even with all the increased competition.
So it's not just mom now saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right?
Exactly.
Hey, Daryl, I want to circle back to what you talked about, food costs. I mean, a lot of people are thinking about breakfast, lunch as, very low food costs, and that is a positioning as far as both of you are franchising your location. Tell us a bit about the difference with food costs in the breakfast segment that makes probably a little competitive advantage over some of the other concepts out there.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of concepts over the years that, have had food costs, close to 30%, if not above 30%, depending on the proteins that you're serving. In our business, obviously, the proteins are limited. They're mostly pork because of the bacon side of it, which is relatively inexpensive. But, we've been pretty successful in running, food costs in the mid-20s. 26% is usually our number of all-in food cost, and we've been doing that for some time now. And there is definitely some fluctuation in eggs and in cheese especially, and clearly the proteins. But the success that we've been having is because, again, 80% of the meals that we serve are breakfast items. They're eggs, they're potatoes, they're chicken sausage, turkey bacon, things like that, which are relatively inexpensive. They spike from time to time, but we've seen some pretty consistent food costs over the years we've been involved with the concept.
See, I as restaurant brokers, we're looking at a lot of P&Ls and a lot of financial data, and I agree with you because when I look at a breakfast lunch concept, the food costs are always lower, primarily because of what you mentioned, the proteins. And the other thing I see often is that the labor costs are lower because you don't have to have a huge branded name chef. I mean, a lot of folks can put together a menu with the bacon and the eggs and assemble the ingredients, provided that there's sort of some oversight and structure to what that menu should be. You don't need somebody to come in and create this fabulous special of the day that may be highly expensive and or very difficult to assemble. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Absolutely. I mean, you can get that breadth and variety on a breakfast menu by just having a number of different omelets, for example, or Benedicts and things like that, where the base preparation method is the same. It's really just a matter of the ingredients that you put in there. Although the flip side of that is to remain relevant and attract, new customers. We have done a lot of menu innovation over the last couple of years, and including a quinoa platform that has served us very well, and that's really focusing on the lunch part of our business with these quinoa power bowls. So we do focus on on menu innovation and menu development and culinary development. But you're exactly right. For the base products, and the traditional breakfast is still our number one selling item, which is eggs, meat, potatoes, and toast. And how we execute that is what keeps people coming back. And we also like to add that variety. But the costs involved, like Daryl said, with eggs and potatoes, and you don't get these crazy spikes like you do in beef or chicken wings and things like that. So it is something that's relatively easy to maintain and manage, and pretty consistent.
Good. Well, Chris, you gave me a great segue to my next question. I mean, we've talked, National Restaurant Association survey says, ethnic food is something growing, especially in the breakfast segment. So, and if you look at overall, a lot of people say Latin food influences are starting to really pop up everywhere. So have you guys kind of integrated some of that? I mean, you just mentioned a bit of quinoa and things like that, but how about any ethnicity into some LTOs or different things in your menus right now to reflect these trends?
Yeah,
Daryl?
we definitely have. With us starting in California, a lot of that California and even some Tex-Mex and some of that Latin influence has always been on our menu. We've had breakfast burritos and chorizo and things on our menu for a very long time, and we continue to push that as that becomes more and more widespread by the consumer and accepted and even embraced. So yeah, we continue to focus on that.
And Daryl, what about you?
No, the same thing. We've done all that. I mean, we're kind of focused on kind of Southern classic food with the shrimp and grits and the fried green tomatoes. All of our restaurants are in the Southeast, and we focus on that. I hate to use that ethnic side of it, but we've done the chorizo, we've done the breakfast burritos, and we've done stuff like that as well. And it's usually a limited time offer. It's, we focus on the Southern classics. But we definitely do that. And then, more than the ethnic stuff, we really focused on the gluten-free side of the business, which is a whole other side of the business. But we've done, Mexican wraps and, things like that, which have some of the ethnic side of it. And it definitely is attractive to a lot of different people. And it's to stay relevant. But I think even bigger is the whole gluten-free and the dairy and the egg and all that other stuff, which in a breakfast concept, you don't really want to say no dairy or no egg. Because you basically get a piece, of toast at that point.
Right. And I think we alluded a bit to some of the quick casual concepts, fast food, because options are really heating up there. I mean, in just the last 3 months, Taco Bell's breakfast has become their second most successful product launch in 52 years, behind their Doritos Locos Tacos platform, and they're expanding their breakfast lineup. Is this just fine, it's Taco Bell versus McDonald's, or fast food war, does that affect your sales? And maybe, Daryl, you want to weigh in first?
No, I think it's great. Chris mentioned it earlier. I mean, I love the fact that they're advertising so much on TV for their breakfast and trying to beat up, the commercial. The best commercial they have is when they bring together all the Ronald McDonald's. I love that commercial. They clearly know what they're doing. They're clearly going after, which I assume is their number one competitor. But that brings breakfast top of mind, whether it's a burrito from the egg and cheese burrito, and now they're adding the hash browns, whether it's that or whether it's, FirstWatch or whether it's Flying Biscuit, it's breakfast. And most people, I would think, associate breakfast, with bacon and eggs. That's most people, or a bowl of cereal. That's breakfast. So them mentioning it and spending millions and millions of dollars advertising all over the country, I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. I love it.
Great. How about you, Chris? You want to weigh in a little bit on that war?
Yeah, I'll just go back to what I said earlier. It's again, training and teaching the consumer about the importance of breakfast, and really trying to get that usage occasion in their mix now, where they may have had a bowl of cereal at home or a granola bar at their desk, or we have a term here we call desk fist. I mean, if somebody wants desk fist and they're going to eat something in their car or on their at their desk at work, we're not sure that we're the right option for them. But we're seeing more and more what we call power breakfast in the morning, where people come together and have their meeting before their day gets away from them. So they say, hey, let's meet at FirstWatch at 7 o'clock, have our meeting, and then be on with our days. And we're getting a lot of that. And there's a lot of, I've actually been seeing it, there's a lot of our restaurants, we're typically in line or end cap in a strip center, and we have some that have Taco Bell's right out front as an out parcel, and they've got all these flags and banners and sometimes I think they even have, marching bands out there telling people to come in for breakfast, and it's helping to bring people into the shopping center and think about breakfast. And again, if that's somebody new that we get one out of the 2 visits because one, they're going to go through the drive-thru at Taco Bell, that's a new customer for us, and then hopefully our food and service wins them over and they become a regular customer of ours. So I'm all for it. I think I want to send Taco Bell a thank you note and tell them we appreciate it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I believe that, your customer is somebody who's going to go sit in, have breakfast, either for a meeting or for, a family gathering or something. It's not the guy that, is driving his car and wants to go to a drive-thru, grab a box and head down to the office and open it there. So I believe that there's 2 different kind of needs here, and both of you are filling, whatever needs of the day is for each of these potential customers.
Yeah.
And I want to follow up a little bit because you talked about power breakfast. How do you see the healthy side of breakfast dining evolving? I mean, there was some recent research that showed, almost 70% of those people that are eating breakfast food are looking at low cholesterol and heart healthy claims. Does that play into your menu development in a big way? And we'll start with Chris.
Yeah, it's been part of our DNA from when we started. We, if you think about it, 30 years ago, we were one of the first concepts to have the now ubiquitous parfait with fruit and yogurt and granola and things like that. I mean, because we were out in California, we saw some of those trends starting. But, we make all of our items fresh to order. We don't use microwaves or deep fryers or heat lamps. And we do have an entire section of our menu called the healthier side. And I've been with concepts in the past where, and I've seen other concepts do it, where you put healthier items on the menu almost because you feel that you're obliged to. We actually do it as part of what we do, and it's a pretty significant contributor to our overall product mix as far as what people order. We also try not to penalize people for eating healthy. We don't charge extra for egg whites. We allow all kinds of substitutions. You can have fresh fruit instead of potatoes if you'd like. We have cholesterol and fat-free eggs. So there's a lot of things we do. And then this past year, the quinoa bowl that I mentioned, we were awarded the 2014 Menu Masters for Best Healthful Innovation using quinoa as a base and some grilled chicken and things like that. So there's no question that our guests come to us for healthy alternatives, and we have always delivered on that, and that continues to be a part of our focus going forward.
I love that, because I tell you, it aggravates me when I go out to eat and I'm trying to make a healthy food choice, and then it's an upcharge for that. You can get all the grease and bacon and bad stuff for the dirt, the low price. But if you want to have the fruit and all the other things, then it's going to cost you about 30% more for your breakfast. Daryl, how about you on the healthy side of things? Now, see, you're based in the South, and you've got biscuit in your name. So does that translate?
No, it does. I mean, we've also, since inception, we've always carried chicken sausage and turkey bacon. We also use a soy stitch product as well. In the past year, we've basically reinvented our menu with several gluten-free options on our menu. We do the egg whites as well, and tofu scrambles and garden veggie dishes, a lot of that. And, we're doing a lot of different things, which a lot of other breakfast places aren't doing, which, we've always done. Certainly there was a point where none of our restaurants carried any pork. That was just a decision by the founder, and we've changed it over the years because of the demand for it. But we're doing, organic oatmeal pancakes and things like that, and then certainly the gluten-free. And what we found more than anything is the breakfast bowls. We've done a lot of that over the past year and really promoted it and pushed it, and it's been one of our better sellers of one of our new items, is the breakfast bowls, which is basically people who don't want the bread, who don't want the carbs, and then obviously that's been a big thing for years and probably will always be a big thing. But it certainly is a big part of our menu. When we do a lot of our catering, a lot of people ask for fresh fruit and a lot of the different things that, for breakfast, and some people may not want or may not offer. But, we certainly make it a big part of our menu mix.
That's great. Hey, Chris, when you come into First Watch as a customer, you're greeted with a pot of coffee, free newspaper, free Wi-Fi access. What else about First Watch is distinctive enough that make you just not another, egg concept? Because there's so many of them coming out there. As restaurant brokers, every week we turn around, there's a new breakfast and lunch, concept coming out, on the street corner.
Yeah, I think it's our approach to the food preparation, and our founders started with doing the opposite of things that annoyed them as restaurant customers themselves. So, we talked about being charged for eating healthy. We don't do that. We don't charge for plate splitting, and we don't add automatic gratuities no matter the size of your party. When we are on a wait, we offer free complimentary coffee while you wait, just to make your wait a little bit more manageable. And again, the way we prepare the food, like I mentioned, where we make everything fresh, we cut fresh fruit, we make our own French toast batter and crepe batter, and house roast our own vegetables, make our own granola, those type of things, those little touches that really resonate with the customer, I think, is something that differentiates us. And we've been around a long time, so we've got a proven model, and we know that it resonates with customers. We've got over 200 best of accolades, as voted on by consumers in all of the markets that we're in, and we just continue to try to remain relevant and appeal to a broader audience every day.
That's great. And Daryl, what do you think makes the Flying Biscuits stand out?
Well, I certainly think it has to do with the food for sure, and it has to do with those Southern classics, as I mentioned earlier. And we've been really, always, trying to push our franchisees, for speed of service, especially for breakfast. As mentioned earlier, a lot of people are coming in, starting their day with us, having business meetings, and we certainly make sure that our speed of service is to the best without being sloppy. To make sure people are in and out pretty quickly. Obviously, if people want to hang out, stay, and work on their laptop and have meetings, that's one thing. But we certainly understand that people want to get in and out pretty quickly, so we're constantly working on our speed and quality of service. And Flying Biscuit is kind of known on the weekends here in Atlanta that you're going to, if you ask anyone about Flying Biscuit, well, you're going to wait an hour, and they've kind of become accustomed to it. So we're doing the free coffee, and we're, getting people in, and we're making sure that people are comfortable. So we've set up comfortable seating outside of all of our stores, and some of our stores we have covered areas that we've built into patios and things like that. And most of our locations have a full outdoor covered patio.
Okay, so hold that thought for us just a moment, Daryl, because we're going to go up against a hard break. This is Eric and Robin Gagnon, the Restaurant Brokers, and we have been talking about restaurant concepts and restaurants that are pulling it off with ease and profits. We have Daryl Dollinger from Flying Biscuit and Chris Tomasso of FirstWatch. Stay tuned as we satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. We will be right back after this short break.